is Module 12. It's all about why today, in today's modern world, we need fermented foods and why we need to be concerned about our poor gut health. So come along. Okay, so in today's modern society, what is with this crazy trend of people preserving food the way it was done thousands of years ago? Why, in our modern world, with so many ways to access all kinds of food, do we long for the old ways? Why do we see so many people fermenting their vegetables, making sourdough bread, making yogurts, all of those things? Why is it a trend? Well, I'm going to tell you why. In today's modern society, we have a whole lot of things that we are doing that is destroying the health of our gut. There's an amazing microbiome growing in our guts, and it is loaded with really good for us stuff that affects our whole health in every way. And we don't think about it because, it's our gut. We can't see it and we don't understand the repercussions often. But fermented foods replaces the good bacteria in our gut that we are destroying today in our modern way of living. I'm going to give you some ways that we're doing that. And I have a feeling at least one or two of these things are things that you might be guilty of as well. I know I am guilty of way too many things on this list. And while the best way to improve our health is to improve these things we're doing in our modern day life, a lot of it is stuff that we maybe can't avoid, or it's hard to cut back on some of these things. So balancing out our modern day life with fermented foods and all the health benefits that they give us, it makes for a really nice balance. So what are we doing today that's hurting our guts? Well, first of all, we're not getting enough exercise. In general, we live a much more sedentary life than our grandparents did. Yes? And when we get physical exercise, we're not just strengthening our biceps and working to get our core nice and strong, but believe it or not, without even thinking about it, we are also strengthening our gut. Like internally, exercise actually is good for the health of our gut, which is not a benefit we ever think of. But it's one more reason to make sure you're being active. We also have a huge problem in our society today of not getting enough sleep. We fill our days and our nights with so much stuff. Sometimes it's good stuff, sometimes it's work, and sometimes it has us up through the wee hours of the morning, which is crazy. I mean, I speak from my own experience. This is one of those things on this list I struggle with. I don't get enough sleep. And the problem is, the way that our body has a circadian rhythm, the way that it needs to shut down and rest at night, our gut flora also has a certain rhythm. And when we ignore that daily rhythm that our gut relies on, we, without even realizing it, are impacting the health of our gut. Another thing that we do, along the same lines, even like eating junk food late at night, I'm guilty of that sometimes. I mean, I know people think that, oh, Michelle, she only eats all healthy food. Her family raises their own. And I mean, yes, to a point, but I love junk food. I sometimes crave it, and I sometimes have it late at night, and that is so bad in so many ways. But the one thing that most people don't think about is it's actually hurting your gut flora as well. People work shift work, and that's something you absolutely can avoid if your job requires it. But unfortunately, when your circadian rhythm gets out of balance, so does that gut flora rhythm, and your gut, unfortunately, takes a dive in its health if your body is forced to work out of rhythm with its circadian rhythm. Medicine is another way that modern medicine is miraculous. And so much of it we need in certain circumstances. But unfortunately, we are developing an immunity to the antibiotics that we use. And the antibiotics, unfortunately, like they have a take no prisoner mentality, right? They don't just destroy the bad stuff going on in our body. Unfortunately, they also get into our gut and destroy the good flora and the good bacteria that our body needs. So it's a fine balance. We need these medicines, but we have to be careful because they are also hurting us in ways that we sometimes don't think about. And then there's this big word. Well, it's not really a big word. It's just a 6-letter word. But for me, I subject myself to this all the time when I really shouldn't. It's silly. Stress. Stress is a huge trigger for our poor health. When we allow ourselves to be upset and anxious and worried and eager to get the next job done and all those things, it's so bad for us, guys. And it definitely impacts the growth of the good stuff in our gut. It impedes it when we're under stress. And this is something I don't have a trouble with at all this time of year because I am right down here in my garden as much as I can be. Almost to my detriment because other things that need to get done up at the house don't get done in the summertime. But in general, our society has a lot of trouble with not being outside enough. It seems a little crazy, but just getting your hands in the dirt and being outside subjects ourselves and our gut to all that good bacteria that's in the dirt, that's in the environment that we should be getting more of internally. It's not like I'm out there eating dirt or anything, but there are very good microbes existing in nature all around us that if we're not spending time outside, if we're too busy behind a desk or we're too busy, watching Netflix at night instead of taking a walk after dinner, we're not getting enough of those good microbes from nature inside of us where we need them. There's also the problem of germ phobia. On one hand, it's of course good to be aware of potential germs and avoid them, but we're so much as a society concerned about antimicrobial wipes and keeping our hands washed continually and avoiding all germs. Unfortunately, the result of too much germ phobia is that I'm being distracted because there's a gorgeous hummingbird flying around. Another reason to be outside, right? Using too much of that antimicrobial germ-killing stuff and not allowing ourselves to ever be subjected to any kind of germs, unfortunately, that's bad for the health of our gut because our gut needs a balance of the good and the bad germs. And if we are killing all germs, then we're not allowing the good ones either, right? And then there's the problem of processed foods. We are not growing enough of our own. We're not going to the farmers markets and getting the fresh, just out of the garden foods. Instead, we're choosing processed foods because it seems so much easier to us. But in the end, our body is not getting enough of the fiber that we need so desperately from our vegetables, from our whole grains, and from our fruits. All of them are necessary in our diet because without them, we're not getting that prebiotic fiber that is so necessary for a healthy gut biome. So will just having a glass of kombucha every day solve all of your gut problems? Of course not. Absolutely not. Will it help a little bit? Absolutely, because in your kombucha that you're making, it's loaded with all of these good things that we're not getting enough of for all the reasons I just explained. Now, because of what we're suffering as a society with this poor gut health, we are faced with incredible problems that we don't even realize the full scope of yet, I feel like. Things like weight gain, inflammation, bowel disease, insulin resistance, and colon cancer. The list could go on of the problems that result when we have poor gut health. So, I don't know about you. I'm going to work on being a little less stressed, getting a little more sleep, and making sure I always have some good prebiotics in my diet.